Alrighty, seems like we're live again. One more time and from Nearsoft's Mexico City office. Welcome everyone to one to one more broadcast of DojoLIVE, which is this thing that we have right here. This is, by the way, this is going to be like our new logo. You're going to see it around in our websites and our materials all over the place, even. And I just wanted to show it off a little bit because it's kind of cool. Axel, our designer, did a great job with this. Alrighty, guys. Well, today we have a very, very, very special guest. We're very, very honored to have here Mónica Taher. Well, she's. I was telling my co-hosts here that Mónica is a lot of things, and she wears many hats. But in a nutshell, Mónica is she labels herself as a serial tech entrepreneur, and she's also an Accelerate with Google Academy alumna. She's a partner at Getty Images Latin America, and the CEO and founder of ClipYap, a soon-to-be launched app. You're going to tell us about that, Mónica, further down the road. All right. And also, she's a Commerce fashion line influencer and an active member of the American Jewish community in Latin American task force, and is the LA City Director for Lesbians Who Tech. That's interesting. And well, I don't want to mumble too much. I'm going to let you, Mónica, do the talking. I'm going to let you introduce yourself. And I understand, Mónica, that, oh, by the way, that's rude of me. I didn't introduce my co-hosts. Janet Amaya, she's a developer at Nearsoft. She's in Chihuahua. And also Lily Escobedo, she's in IT support in our headquarters in Hermosillo. Thank you all. Okay, I really appreciate you being here today. All right. Well, all right, Mónica. I understand. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I understand that today you're going to be talking about specifically the state of women in technology. So why don't you get it started and tell us a little bit about why you chose this particular topic for this edition of DojoLIVE. Welcome, Mónica.
Thank you, everybody, Carlos, everybody, for having me today. That's a great question. You know, why did I pick this topic? It's an important topic for us to discuss. It's something that we need to, the lack of women in technology is something that it's a conversation, it's a narrative that needs to be spoken about, not just by us women, but also by men, so we can eradicate the gender gap, not just in technology companies, but also in any STEM-related career or area. And we're seeing that the reality is that the future of all the jobs in starting as early as 2020, that's in less than 5 years. 80% of those jobs are going to be related to STEM careers. And what that means is that if we women are lagging behind and we are not keeping up with the numbers in terms of how many women are involved in IT-related jobs, how many women are launching startups, who's being funded by investors. If we're not understanding the state of women in technology right now, then there's going to be a serious problem 10 years from now, 20 years from now, that will affect us not only at the professional level, but especially economically. Hence why I chose this topic.
Oops, sorry, I was on mute. Sorry, it always happens to me. Well, I'm sure that there will be a lot of reasons why this particular topic, I myself included, I consider to be extremely important. This is also something that I was telling before we started the broadcast, is that we don't have, or we don't see as many women participate in technology endeavors as we would have, as we would desire, right? So, Mónica, there's something that I would like to ask you personally, and then I'll let you do the talking. Of course, I'll let you introduce your topic and feast on your time, because that's what we're here for. We're here to listen to you and to have you share your experiences with us as well. Mónica, in this endeavor of yours of getting into technology, tell us a little bit about how you got there. What I mean by this is, Did you find technology or did technology find you? And either way, what kind of challenges as a woman, as being a woman, have you experienced that that you would consider to be relevant and worth sharing with our audience?
Absolutely, that's an interesting question. Just because I like the way you framed it. Did technology find me, or did I find technology? The truth is, anybody who's been to my site, I happen to blog about technology and personal finance, specifically for women. You can actually, if you look behind, you can see www.monicataher.com, which happens to be my blog. And I strive to educate women, not just about technology, in a very colloquial way, especially for those women who are not necessarily very tech savvy and who might feel intimidated about tech. But I also emphasize money and personal finance issues, something that goes along with technology, something that goes along with any profession that you might be focusing on, simply because, as we know, also the state of economics when it comes to women is different when compared to a man's. To answer your question, my story is, I always like telling my personal story, simply because it's an everyday story. It's something that can happen to anybody, whether you are straight or gay. In my case, I'm gay, and I was with my partner of 13 years. My partner suffered a midlife crisis, and that propelled into her leaving our home, and my life changed completely, not only emotionally, but mostly financially, simply because I found myself now with a mortgage that I had to pay, and in a state in which I didn't really have enough money to make those payments. So I can say that one thing led to another. I started researching about personal finance, about where I was with my debt, with my assets, what I could do in order to make things happen. I have a 17-year-old girl and daughter, and I had to put food on the table for her. And this journey led me to discover the wonders of technology. Why do I say that? Simply because technology is the present and is our future. It's been proven that women who are working in STEM-related careers make 33% more in salary than women who are working in other professions. What that means is that if right now women make 77 cents for each dollar that a man makes, a woman who's working in a STEM-related career is going to make at least 92 to 93 cents, close to every dollar a man would make. In other words, it's not rocket science. We need to incentivize girls and women girls to study any STEM-related career, science, technology, engineering, math, and within math, we're talking about business, we're talking about anything that has to do with finance. And for women, even if there might be a fear when they hear the word technology, the reality is that everything around us gravitates around technology. I'll give you a quick example. This is what helped me in regards to my personal story. There are 200,000 monthly advertisers on Instagram. 200,000 monthly advertisers. Let's say that you are a woman working as a brand manager in an advertising agency, and it has nothing to do necessarily with technology. The fact that you are working in marketing is that, and the fact that you are now going to start purchasing advertising on Instagram has to wake you up. What I mean by that is that you need to embrace technology because this is the future. You need to understand how you're going to be advertising from now on, not just on Instagram, but in any other social media site. The same thing goes for a photographer. The same thing goes for a person working in a finance department at a company. Everything around us says technology. So I got involved with technology because of the personal issue that I had, and one thing led to another. I became a business owner of a technology company, and things kept progressing to the point that I'm on the verge of launching my own startup now, as well as the fact that I've been blogging about technology and feeling more comfortable about this subject by educating women, empowering women about the need to talk about this issue. And I do that through my blog.
Sorry about that again. About these glitches with the mute button and everything. Well, there's definitely. I'm speechless. I mean, I've never thought that for some reason or another, especially sometimes we men fall into the very, very wrong perception that in occasions certain things are easier for women because of the fact that they're women, especially in the way that women are and men get along with each other in business and society in general at large. So, but what you're telling me, there's a lot of challenges involved. So, what I would like to do now, I mean, I need to. I don't want to take up the time that we have allotted today. So I'm going to let my fellow Nearsoftians and co-hosts move along with their questions. I understand that they have a lot. So Janet and Lily, now's your turn. The mic's all yours.
Okay. I would like to ask something that now that you're talking about this. A couple of weeks ago, I was listening one of your talks, and you mentioned a shocking statistic. You said that in technology world, only the 4% are women. I mean, it's, oh my God. So, well, you already talked a little bit about it, but what do you think we can do better for all those women in the world that want to join technology world? What we need to do different?
Absolutely. Let me focus on that statistic first. Actually, 26% of women are involved in IT-related jobs. 26%, which means that the rest happen to be men. The 4% came in regards to the number of women involved as VCs or venture capitalists. What does that mean? If only 4% of women are actually investing in other women's startups, the rest, we're talking about 96% of investors happen to be men, or venture capitalists happen to be men. And they most likely are going to invest on startups that are led by men. So that 4% relates to investing. Women who are basically providing the money for other startups to succeed. But in regards to your question, there are many things. We have a lot of statistics that are negative. We talk about how, for instance, at Facebook, there's only 15% of all tech-related jobs belong to women. Only 15%. At Google, it's 17%, and at Twitter, the number is actually pathetic. It's only 10%. So we have this gruesome scenario, this gruesome panorama about the state of women in technology. But I really like pushing the envelope, and I like trying to find the positive angle in everything. And to answer your question, what I can say about how we can change the state of women in technology is by doing several things. Number one, education begins at home. We need to strive for parents and also for teachers to promote STEM-related education as early as elementary school. It's been proven academically that children, when they are in the first grade, they relate math with boys. And let's talk about this for a little bit. Do we understand the repercussion of this cultural nuance? The fact that if little girls, when they are in elementary school, if they're thinking that boys are better at math, they will not major in math or in science, or perhaps much less in engineering or even computer science. They will go for perhaps the humanities, and there is nothing wrong with the humanities. What I'm trying to say is that we as a society are not necessarily teaching our girls that it is important to go into these types of fields, or that they can actually they actually have the power to major in math or in computer science. So that's one thing, education. Number two, we as women also need to join groups such as Women 2.0. There's so many groups right now that are for women and that relate to technology. In Mexico, there is Epic Queen, this group that of women that code and that teach actually girls to how to code. I am in this case myself. I taught myself how to code at 40 years old. So when someone tells me that it's too complicated, there's no way I can do it, the sky is the limit. I do not buy that because I've done it. So if I did it, anybody can do it. The other thing, there's also Lesbians Who Tech, another group that is actually has a chapter in Mexico, has a chapter in Israel, in Brazil. It's all over the world. The other thing that I would recommend would be for women who are not necessarily, whose forte is not necessarily technology, or who feel a little bit apprehensive about technology. I would say start following a blogger who writes about technology in a non-threatening way. So you can start understanding the basics. By the basics, I mean, I'll give you a quick example. 2 weeks ago, I cut my cable. I actually have satellite, and I'm saving right now $50 a month because I cut satellite and switched into a streaming service. What that means now is that instead of having 200 channels, mind you, the regular consumer only watches 17 channels per month, give or take. You have access to 200 or perhaps more, but we are living in such fast times that we do not have the time to watch all the content we're being bombarded with. So what I did is that I signed this, I bought this streaming service, and now I basically handpicked the channels that I wanted to watch. So what you do is that you start reading, and when you start reading, you start gaining knowledge, and the fear goes away. That would probably be one of the most important things I would recommend women to do. And the other thing that I would do is to get acquainted with how your companies at the local level, in your country, in your city, are treating the issue of diversity. There is an interesting quote by the diversity manager at Procter & Gamble worldwide, who basically says that equity goals, meaning not just salary, but percentage of equity for high-ranking employees at Procter & Gamble, are tied to diversity goals. How beautiful is that? What that means is that you have to exercise the diversity within Procter & Gamble in order to make more money. It's as simple as that. And if all companies, especially tech companies, the Googles of the world, Facebook, Twitter, they were to follow this pattern, this example, I think the state of women in technology would be absolutely different.
Wow, that's great. Great advices and a lot of cool information. Thanks for the answer.
There you have it, Jennifer. So let's switch over to, unless you have something else, but I'd like to switch over to Lily. How about you, Lily? What's on your mind? You have a leader in the industry in front of you, so what would you ask her?
All right. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you. You are on mute, Lily.
Okay.
Okay, now we can hear you. Yes, you were on mute for a few seconds.
Sorry about that technical issue.
No problem.
All right.
I should know. Technical issues, I should know.
Yeah.
All right.
A lot.
Go ahead.
Is like you're seeing right now like a worldwide schedule of the women who wants to join like communities or something like that, or are you just focus on some area for it?
The question is if I'm seeing a trend of women wanting to join technology groups, technology organizations.
Yes.
Is that the question?
Yeah.
Yes, the answer is absolutely yes. There is. Then again, we can spend the whole hour talking about all the negative statistics, all the negative things that with women in technology, or actually lack of women in technology. I prefer to focus on the positive. Yes, there is not only a big interest by by women in different countries trying to join organizations or trying to learn how to code, or looking for programs for little kids, for girls who can teach them how to code. But I'm also seeing a segmentation within these groups. What does that mean? For instance, here in the United States, we have so many women technology-related groups, and you don't have to go necessarily to the big tech hubs such as Silicon Valley or Silicon Beach here in LA, or let's say New York or Austin or Boston, all of these huge tech hubs, because the groups are everywhere. But the segmentation I'm talking about is that within these women groups, there are other minorities or other groups that have been proliferating. For instance, we have Lesbians Who Tech. I happen to be the LA City director for this organization, and we get together once a month and we empower women. It's a nice group because we empower women not only to pursue their dreams as entrepreneurs of startups, but also if they are coders, or they are graphic designers, or anything, or they are doing anything that pertains to technology, we encourage them by networking, by providing opportunities for them, providing contacts, etc., etc. Other groups that are seeing are obviously Latinos in technology groups, or in this case, Latinas in technology. The same thing with other minorities, such as Asians and African American women groups. So it is interesting that there is a momentum about not just the conversation of the lack of women in tech, but most importantly, what can we do in order to fix the problem? And I think that's where our focus should be at.
All right. That was awesome. I have another question. Besides the progress that you're seeing in communities, that they are joining more people together, I was going to ask you, like, let me see how I can get to you with this. Is like, do you see like a fast evolve from like 2 or 3 years before till now? And how come whenever you apply to a job for like anything on tech around, how do you think they see a women approaching that job, like from the perspective of a company?
That's an interesting question. I'm going to answer the first part, which is if I've seen a more progress, basically, from the past, since the past 5 years, let's say. And the answer is yes, absolutely. Everything new that is coming up, any technological trend that is coming up, I don't think 5 years ago we were necessarily talking so much about artificial intelligence. Now we are, and in fact, by 2020, 50% of the jobs that will relate to artificial intelligence have not been created yet. And what that means is that we're still catching up with technology, and we'll know more by the year 2020. So we are being led, these changes and this interest by women about technology and any other area in STEM, we're being led by the same changes. And I know that we are in 2016, but in 2020, this conversation will probably be way too old, because we'll be talking about not just artificial intelligence, but robotics, and we're already talking about robotics and many other things. So yes, we have experienced a huge gain and a huge change since 5 years ago. Now, in regards to how women are perceived when, let's say, seeking a job at a tech company, whether this company is based out of Silicon Valley or whether it is here in LA or even in Mexico, where I know that there is a Google headquarters and many other tech companies that also have an arm in Mexico City. There is an interesting statistic that says that hiring managers, because of these, the proliferation of stereotypes when it comes to women and math or women and technology, there is this thinking that hiring managers will tend twice as much, will tend to hire a man as opposed to a woman for a tech or math-related career, even when the only difference happens to be gender. In other words, hiring managers, and let's pay attention to this, hiring managers can be both male or female. They will tend to hire men for these types of tech jobs as opposed to women. And I'm not saying that this is the norm in all companies. I think companies have woken up a little bit and are trying to include more women into IT jobs. For instance, Google has a workshop series which is called Unconscious Bias, which teaches hiring managers not to focus on stereotypes when hiring anybody in this case, because today is women, tomorrow is going to be gay people, and the next day is going to be perhaps people with physical challenges. Let's think about it that way. So what that means is that companies are taking steps, even if they're little, but they're taking steps in order to be more open-minded about the advantages of hiring women. It's proven that when women hold high-ranking positions, when they are high-ranking executives at tech companies, the ROI, the return on investment, is greater. We're talking about 53% at least for equity returns and 42% for sales returns. So in other words, it pays off to have women in high-ranking positions at tech companies.
One more time. Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, sometimes what you were saying just struck a chord, because it could get controversial. For example, take the case of Marisa Mayer from Yahoo. I mean, she's been very, very controversial, but she's kind of brought the numbers, Yahoo's numbers, to the different plateau. But I think that her success came with a price tag. Wouldn't you agree on that?
If we focus on
a price tag for her as a person.
Correct. If we focus on Marisa's story, yes, there is a lot to say about that. As you know, Yahoo closed its doors in Mexico, actually cut a lot of the workforce in Mexico, as well as in Argentina. And those were the biggest Latin American hubs for Yahoo. And one of the reasons is because they're not finding the way to keep up with content generation. They're not finding their way to compete the same way Facebook has done it. We're seeing the same story with Twitter. In Marisa's case, as you know, I had to mention this simply because there is a double standard in society. I had to mention the fact that after she had twins, after she delivered her babies, and actually before, when she was pregnant, and she felt a lot of pressure in order to, not necessarily because she was pregnant, but because she had to be at work. She couldn't take, or she didn't want to take a lot of time off from the helm at Yahoo, because she didn't want to be perceived as, oh, you're a woman, you just delivered your babies, there you go, you're going to take 3 months off, and then what's going to happen to Yahoo, right? There's a lot of pressure on us women, and when we deliver a baby. That doesn't happen with men. And it's something, obviously, that, biologically, meaning we are the only ones having a baby, even though we're not necessarily the only ones creating that baby. So I think society puts not only a lot of pressure on us. I think Marisa's case is a prime one, just because of the debacle that we're seeing in regards to Yahoo's development right now, and the fact that they have closed so many of their content verticals. In other words, the company is shrinking. and hopefully it won't be necessarily a perception on her ability as a woman to lead the company.
Yeah, of course. I mean, just for the record, I feel the need to clarify that I was never referring to that. I mean, it's not about her condition as a woman. It had to do, as you mentioned, with those double standards and how women are perceived in a mostly man-dominated. I mean, unfortunately, biased society. I don't know how to call it. So please, due to a lack of a better word. But anyway, I'd like to, unless Janet or Lily have any other questions, I'd like to just pause for a couple of seconds and mention this. I'd like to remind the audience that they can send us your questions by means of the Q&A prompt that you see on your screen. And if you're watching us on DojoLIVE's website, just go to the lower left-hand side of the screen where it says be part of the conversation. Click there, and it'll walk you through all the way to our Q&A window, which you can send us type in your questions, and we'll answer them. Also, I have written down a few notes here that I'd like to excuse me, to ask Monica. But again, with your permission, Lily, Janet, if you don't have, may I, or do you have anything else before I jump into my stuff here?
By me, go ahead.
All right, good. Lily, no more questions for now, or do you want to save them for later?
For now, no.
For now, okay.
I will save them for later.
Excellent. We still have a good 20 minutes, so yeah, by all means. All right, a couple of things, Monica, if I may. A few minutes ago, you mentioned that you were recommending women who want to how do you say that? There's a phrase for that. There's an idiomatic expression, to get their feet wet in technology endeavors. You recommended them to start at least reading blogs written by women, but you used the expression in a non-threatening way. What did you mean by that?
Sure. I have a Facebook friend, and we'll leave it at that, who actually posted a few days ago, I hate technology, blah, 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 and she continued with her rant. So it was and this person works as a photographer for a very interesting, for a very big studio. And I read I read her post, and needless to say, I could relate, as well as many other women could relate to what she was trying to say. Some women hate technology, not necessarily because technology is boring. Technology is actually beautiful. They hate it because most of the time they do not understand it. And sometimes, just like many other things in society, whether it's homosexuality, whether it's religion, whether it's so many other topics, we tend to say that we hate those things simply because we cannot understand them. And what I meant by go to a blog from someone who can write it in a non-threatening way is find that, because there's so many bloggers and so many women blogging about technology right now and about money. Find a blog that will fit your needs. Find someone who will write about streaming and cable in a very colloquial way, or find someone who will write about coding without really diving into the technical issues, but explaining it in a way that is as simple as ABC. And I can assure you that then you will feel compelled to keep reading about technology. You'll embrace it, and then you'll adopt it into your everyday life. Because I really think that at this point in time, if we as women, regardless of the career we're in, you can be a photographer, you can be a graphic designer, you can be anything that you want to be, and not necessarily be working in a STEM-related career. But at the end of the day, everything will have to do with technology, because this is how the world is functioning right now. Technology is the future. And if you are not equipped with the right tools, what that translates into is that you will not make enough money compared to your counterparts. It's as simple as that.
All right. Yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense, Monica. And I have something else. But again, ladies first. Lily, Janet, anything else?
Go ahead.
Okay, good. All right. Let's suppose that, well, you can probably tell that I'm not a woman, right? Let's suppose that I am a woman and that I am an entrepreneur. And I want to start something out, and I have this entrepreneurial itch, and I just can't hold it any longer, cannot keep it at bay. But there's a problem, right? And the problem is that you, because of the position, of the unique position where you are now, okay, you've made a lot of progress, you have great success, okay, now you're being able to use and understand and use and apply the term social disruptor, right? Okay, I mean, but from my standpoint, because I have no previous knowledge of everything that is required in order to be successful and to be a social disruptor, how can I be a social disruptor if I don't even know, if I don't know notion? I'm not aware, I have no awareness of what being a social disruptor is, right? I mean, I have the potential to be, but I don't know it. How do I realize it? How do I get into the social disruption thing if I'm not aware of it?
Correct. That's a great question, but it's also a hypothetical. And let me tell you why.
Why?
All of us who are perusing, I mean, I look at myself a few years ago when I, after sharing my story, when I was trying to find something that could help me change my life, not just personally because of the situation that I had gone through with my former partner, but at the same time financially, something that could help me literally and in a very blunt way make more money. So you start perusing sites, you start reading, you start researching. If you're thinking about technology, if you're thinking about the word startup, it's because, like you said, there's a little something inside of you, and that little something most likely is the idea of a company or of a startup that you want to launch. It's just an idea, and it might not be an idea that is completely fleshed out. It's just a tiny idea. It's a curiosity in your mind, but that is enough for you to understand that if you keep going the right way, if you keep reading, if you keep asking the right questions and trying to join groups where you can find help in order to launch your startup, to get funding, to get information about the skills that you don't have, such as, let's say, marketing or finance, etc., then the term social disruption comes in automatically. And what do I mean by that? Disruption is change. It just means change. Social, it can be anything, culturally speaking. It can be Uber and the way they disrupted the taxi industry. It can be Airbnb and the way they are disrupting the hotel industry. It can be so many other startups that started. It can be Facebook. It can be so many startups that basically started with a tiny, tiny idea where the entrepreneur really didn't even know how far their idea was going to go until they tried it. And that's what I mean by empowering women so they can become social disruptors. You will never know how big your startup can get based on that tiny idea that you have. But if you never try it, then definitely you will never know. So you have to try it.
I think that giving it a try, as someone who, you mentioned that maybe you might have this little tiny idea, right? And you have this idea because you spotted a problem, and you have this idea for a solution to that problem. You might be thinking, oh, I have this great idea for an app that could solve this and this and this problem. So, but I stopped there because I have no. I mean, I'm attracted to technology as a user, okay, but I have no knowledge whatsoever of what it takes to get to ground the technical part of the operation. Okay, I have no previous knowledge. I don't even have a friend who knows, I don't know, HTML, for crying out loud. Okay, so let's suppose I know nothing, but I just have the idea. Okay, but I'm challenged by my technical scarcity. What do I do?
I was dying for you to ask me that question, because I want to say that at least 90% of all entrepreneurs that I ran across, that I met, were in the same position. What does that mean? You have this idea that is, any idea is born out of a need to solve a problem or out of a lack of. You identify that there is an issue or that something is missing, and boom, you get that idea. So you have the idea, but you don't know how to code. You are actually really bad at finance. Let's say that you have no knowledge on how to forecast, something that is definitely prime when you are about to launch a startup, or actually to create a plan for your startup, such as a business plan and projections for the next 1 to 3 years. And obviously you don't have access to capital, and that means making the right pitch in order to get funded. You are missing all of these important parts. You have the idea, and that's all you have, and you call yourself an entrepreneur. What I can tell you is that you are still in the right path, because what you need to do is to join groups such as the ones we mentioned earlier, Women 2.0, Lesbians Who Tech, Women in Technology International, Epic Queen in Mexico. There's so many. There's also 500 startups in Mexico, as well as around the world. And you start meeting people who can complement your skills. Maybe someone who will become your partner because that person is a star in finance, and that's something that you need. That's absolutely something that you need in order to be able to run a business. Maybe you're going to find a partner who will be in charge of coding, because that person knows not only how to write HTML, but also how to write Java and anything else that is necessary in order to launch, let's say, the platform that you have in your head. You just didn't know how to create it. You had the idea, but you didn't know how to create it. So in my opinion, it is more important to have that breakthrough idea and then start complementing, start putting together all the pieces to that puzzle. Nowadays, finding people who will lead you, who will help you find funding, who will help you identify conferences where you can go and learn and talk to other people who have the skills that you lack, nowadays, that is very easy. The key thing here is, number one, to have that idea and to have resilience, which in my opinion is the number one factor for any entrepreneur to succeed.
Resilience. That's definitely a key word when it comes to starting something out. Sometimes the beaten can get hard, but you gotta have resilience in order to take it and just keep moving, right? I have only two more items, two more things before we're approaching the final segment. By the way, we still have a good 10 minutes. And real quick, personally, I'd like to ask you two more things, if I may. As a women entrepreneur in technology, would you say that there are, let's call them niche markets or segments, that are more receptive towards women when it comes to starting out something? Just as an example, let's suppose that I don't know, maybe you might, as a woman, might have an interest in, say, I don't know, clothing or software, or something that is not too usually for boys, right? And I quote, for boys. And as opposed to having getting into e-commerce of mechanical parts for cars. Just, might be a little graphic, the examples, but I just wanted to make a point. Are there niche markets or segments that are more favorable, more open, more receptive to women becoming entrepreneurs in technology?
I have to say yes, but Carlos, I also I also have to say that it's kind of a very stereotypical example, simply because I would never tell women who are entrepreneurs to go into areas such as fashion or cooking or things
Yeah,
that have been typically giving a space for for a female demographic. Again,
absolutely.
we're talking about stereotypes. To answer your question in the most rational way, I would say that. Yes, fashion and perhaps other non-technical areas where a female entrepreneur launches a startup, there might be more room. But then again, that room is also tied to stereotypes, and I
Hmm.
think that's one thing that women needs to strive for. We need to defeat those stereotypes. I can perfectly launch a startup that will focus strictly on e-commerce or on something, let's say cars, or on anything that might be perceived as a male-dominated industry. I want to do that because I want to break the glass ceiling. I don't want to play it safe. I do represent a brand which is called Komarov, just because I like fashion, but and I have become an influencer, and I Instagram and I tweet about Komarov, and I love their garments, and I wouldn't support a brand that is not that I don't believe in, basically. However, that is besides the point. I am not launching a startup that has to do with fashion. I would perhaps most likely launch a startup that has to do with heavy coding and cars and anything that where women are not necessarily taken serious, but because for me that would be a bigger challenge.
Hmm. Definitely. And Monica, I have to tell you that you definitely got my drift. I wanted to make a point, and you brought it up beautifully, and you elaborated beautifully on that. So sometimes when you're in this end of the interviewing part, it's kind of hard to embrace certain topics, and specifically like like the cliche part and all that, stereotypes. It's kind of a touchy issue. So, but I wanted to bring it up, right, so that you can comment on that. And I gotta hand it to you. You did it beautifully. And so there you have it, folks. Let's stray away from stereotypes. I wish that Hollywood could also learn something from getting away from stereotypes. All right. Okay, Janet and Lily, I'll pass on the mic to you, and I have my final item here. Just real quick, on my end, Monica, tell us a little bit about ClipYap and Getty Images, your companies. If whatever you want to share with us.
Absolutely. Well, I'm currently working on two startups, ClipYap, which is the one that has been getting more attention, just simply because I've been talking about it more openly. ClipYap is an application that will hopefully entertain the Z. There you go. Thank you. The Z generation, which is the younger millennials, 12 to 17 years old. And it's an application that uses classic movie and TV shows lines, such as the ones that we watch on, every day on so many shows and so many movies. If I can think of, let's say, Terminator, the first thing that comes to my mind. And I'm back, I think.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, we
perfect.
have you. We have you.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Um,
You were mentioning something about Terminator.
yes, so when you think of that movie, the first thing that comes to mind is "I'll be back." Everybody knows that line, right? So the application will basically use memes, those photos that move really quick,
Hmm.
um, with the classic lines from movies and TV shows, and it's just an entertainment tool for kids to communicate with each other. If I send you that meme that reads "I'll be back" with Terminator's photo in it, then you can send me one back that reads, where are you going? But that where are you going belongs also to a movie. And kids will have the ability to look for those movie lines in a repository of memes that the application will contain. So that's one project that I have been working on for some time. The other startup is a social good startup, and unfortunately I cannot talk that much about it right now, but I'm very excited about this project because I really think that there needs to be more work in the area of corporate responsibility. I think a lot of corporations some of them are doing really good things on behalf of different populations around the world, and others are not necessarily behaving well. And I want to launch this startup in order to see if we can help some way, somehow. And that's all I can say about this other startup. And my company, Getty Images Latin America, is basically the leading digital content producer in the Latin American region and the US Hispanic market. And basically what we do is that we provide clients with stock and editorial photography and footage, as well as music, production of applications, and actual productions of photos and video for clients in the corporate side, as well as advertising agencies, and in this case, the media. It's an interesting company simply because we get to work with a variety, with an array of clients, and we really get involved into their advertising needs, and especially because the way advertising is changing right now, as you know, consumers are more intelligent nowadays, and they love those ad blockers, and they like clicking off on the videos, on the B-rolls that you happen to watch on YouTube or any other advertising. So it's an interesting time to live in because of that.
It certainly is. It's a good time to be alive, right? It's an interesting time to be alive. Okay, well, let's see. We have a couple of minutes. Lily, Janet, mic's all yours. Anything else? Janet?
Yes, please. Well, first I would like to invite all the audience to go to monicataher.com. Is it right? monicataher.com. Yeah, there's pretty interesting information in there. I particularly like one sentence that you have in your story section, which says, women are more empowered when they take control of their personal finances. You already talked a little bit about it, but if you can share something else with the audience, why do you think this is so important? I mean, I totally agree, but I want to listen what you have to say.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Well, if we think about Latin America or think about other regions in the world, or even here in the States, the Latino community, or for that matter, any woman in this world, I really think it's important for us, whether or not we are with someone, whether or not we are straight and we have a husband or a boyfriend, or whether we're gay and we have a partner, it's very, very important that we own and that we are in control of our personal finances. And one of the reasons why I emphasize that is because of the story I went through, because of the situation I went through, because of what happened to me. I lived it. And that story can happen to anybody. Today, you're married and you have a blissful life and you own a home and you have no financial problems whatsoever. And tomorrow, you are basically trying to figure out how you're going to pay your mortgage. And you realize that you might not have that much savings in the bank. And you start basically struggling to see how you're going to solve this problem. So the more we empower ourselves by knowing how to save, how to invest, what to do, even if we get married, and that doesn't mean that you cannot have your own credit cards and your own bank accounts and your own investments, because then again, the future is not guaranteed. So if you are in control of your personal finances and you're thinking about launching a business, regardless if it's a tech-related business, then you will succeed, because you cannot own a business if your personal if your personal finances are a disaster. It's as simple as that. You need to keep both healthy.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Totally agree.
It certainly makes
Thank you.
sense. I would take that advice even for, even though I'm not a woman, but I would take that advice too. And so that applies to, yeah, but I understand, I mean, that your point is very clear as well. It's very hard to predict, to foretell what could happen in the future, what lie ahead of us. And, today you can be just optimal condition, and then tomorrow it could be totally the opposite. So you never know. So yeah, it's a good advice, Monica, on that. Lily, we have a couple minutes. You want something?
All right. Yes, I would like to ask her. I mean, I read also all her adventure and everything, how she get until this point. I want to ask you, like, whenever you have all the struggling and all that, um, like all that turmoil on your life, do you have like any reference? How come you get to the point that you say, "Oh yes, this is for me"?
That's an interesting question. I realized that technology was for me, that business was for me. Mind you, I have a master's degree from UCLA in cinema and media studies, but I don't have a business degree, and I love doing business. And I always knew that about myself, but my love for film was greater, and I decided to go into film as opposed to studying business. I started doing little things here and there that led me to not only have not only have more financial bliss, tranquility, if you will, but successes that led me to believe that technology and business was actually what I really wanted to do. And I'll give you two quick examples. One is that I started investing in Bitcoin. I started reading about Bitcoin, and I started following what it was and the peers and how some people have been successful buying Bitcoin. For those who don't know, Bitcoin is basically a virtual currency. What experts are predicting is that in the near future, there won't be currencies in each country. Bitcoin will, and many other virtual currencies, will be the way we'll pay for our way of life. Whether or not this becomes a fact is really out of the question, because the reality is that Bitcoin exists right now. So I bought Bitcoin, a few coins, if you will, for an X amount of dollars. And I kept it there, and I kept following the news, and I bought it, I believe, at $210 for each Bitcoin, and I sold it, and it went to the roof, and I sold it for over $600 per Bitcoin. And I have to say, I made a nice and interesting amount of money. And that was just me, without necessarily having someone, like when you invest money in the stock market, without having someone telling me, okay, you can sell it now, or you can buy it now. I just did my own research, and I did this on my own. And the other thing that I did was to, way before Hillary Clinton declared that she was going to become a Democratic nominee for the presidential race, everybody had an idea that she was going to run. So I went on a domain search for her name, and I bought about 7 domains that related to her and the Latino community. Hillary for Presidenta, Palante Hillary, etc.com, etc., etc. And I put them on an auction. I spent $70 for those 7 domains that I bought. I sold one for $7,000. So the point I'm trying to make is that you need to take chances, and you need to take risks. And I'm not saying invest $100,000. I don't have $100,000, but I had $70 to spend, and I invested it the right way. And sometimes you will lose the money, and it happens, and it's okay. But you need to keep trying. And that's when I realized that business and technology was absolutely the right thing to do.
Business and technology, a nifty, nice combination. Definitely, by all means. Okay, Monica, unfortunately, we have run out of time today. So I think the last thing for me to tell you is that I really want to thank you for having agreed to being here with us today. And you and I are going to be in touch because we're sending our speakers a couple of nice non-digital tokens of appreciation, which you will receive at home or your office, wherever you instruct me to. And I also want to thank Janet and Lily for having been here today as well. I think that your participation, as usual, enriches these talks and makes them more lively and more fun, right? So, Monica, thank you so much again for your time, for being here. And if there's what would you leave our audience with? What would Monica Taher tell our audience, whether current audience or future, because you're going to be available, you're going to have your own sub-page on your website, and your video is going to be in there for people to watch at their convenience. So what would you tell our audience as a final closing word? Your audience, I mean. What would you tell them?
I would tell women who are watching this segment what I tell them when I write my blogs. Do not give up. Resilience is the most important tool, the most important asset, along with time that you have. What that means is that you're going to encounter a lot of setbacks, personal and professional. But you cannot give up, because that will ensure that you succeed at whatever you do. If you have that idea, if you consider yourself an entrepreneur, or you want to become an entrepreneur, and you have a tiny idea of something that you would like to do, but it's not even fleshed out, you don't know how you can make it happen, you don't have the right tools, it's okay. Keep on pushing until you make things happen.
Resilience is the key. It's one of the key elements, at least. Okay, guys. Well, thank you again Thank you for having me here at another broadcast of Dojo Live. Again, weekly talks with experts like you. Thank you, Monica.
Thank you.
Janet. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Lily. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Thank you.